want to bring on actually a member. He happens to be from Florida. Michael, you there, buddy?
I am.
So, Michael, man, tell us a little bit. I was going to jump into your story, but I so much rather you talk about it. Can you tell us a little bit about you, your family, how you found lifestyles, and kind of take it away, man?
Sure. So my name's Michael Mader. I live down here in Fort Lauderdale. I have been a Lifestyles member since January of this year.
Oh,
And I found Lifestyles, as Del Walmsley put it, the least popular way from an ad on Instagram. I was building up a discretionary amount of capital, and my goal was to actually buy a vacation home. And Derek's gonna like this, on a beach in Portugal, where I could vacation, and when I wasn't using it, rent it out. And as I was doing all my homework on that, going through my Instagram one night, I saw the ad for a gentleman that took $77,000 and turned it into 8 million. And
it's now 11 million.
I'm sorry, it caught my eye. So the first thing I did was sign up for one of those one night exploratories. It was John Horn that was giving the speech. And I said, okay, this is something that, rather than doing something overseas, I could build a portfolio of rental income and just pay for my vacations. And so I became an FFP member in late January. I did the 4-day, and just like everybody else, I was skeptical. I'm like, okay, I've seen these organizations before. There's something that they're not telling us. But the one advantage that I had was, when I joined in February, Expo, the annual conference, was just a couple weeks away. And so I looked at my wife and I said, you know what, I'm going to go to Houston for 3 days, and I'm going to find everything out I can about this company to see what's really going on. And the one thing that really got me was, there were thousands of people there that were just like me, ordinary, good people, wanted to do the right thing. And everything that they were telling me was true and honest. And I'm in a room when Del was speaking, and the only thing I'm thinking of is, here are thousands of people that are smarter than me in real estate right now, but there's no reason why I can't do it myself. And so I got on the phone while I was at the conference, told my wife, I'm going to spend the money, become a challenge member. And guess what? We're going to buy homes here in Houston and San Antonio. She goes, you're crazy, but okay. And sure enough, walked out of the Expo, a challenge member, dove right into all of the education that was available to me. But in the meantime, what I was doing was, the access to the entire network of LU around the country is really what I was building. Because when I was just an FFP, I started talking to Josh Dickerson down here, who's one of the ambassadors in Florida. And after I started getting educated and working with Isaac to try and figure out where exactly I'm going to build a house or buy a house, I started talking to the ambassadors in there, and we ended up in Georgia. So I built a relationship with Rodney Wilson. And between Isaac, the ambassadors, and then bringing on the realtors, built a whole base of knowledge before I even bought my first one, which is the one we're going to talk about tonight.
Cool,
man.
So it's been an adventure. It definitely, I'm going to echo a lot of the things, because when I was listening to Derek, his story is almost just like my story. Skeptical, being proven, doing the process, and finding out that it's not rocket science and it works. And once we got together a good team of people, it was nothing to go out and buy a house, because I knew everything I need to. But more importantly, I knew that there was an entire group of individuals nationally, if I wanted them, that can answer any question I need or help me with anything that I needed. And that's what gave me the confidence.
Cool. Michael, I remember from the first conversation we had, and you're like, okay, well, this is what I got it done. I got to get done. This is what I'm going to do. I said, okay. So we walked through, and it's personalized, every initial mentor meeting that we do. And for him, I didn't know if Texas might be the best. So I gave him different options. And that's how he ended up in Georgia, not by mistake, but on purpose. So let's let's keep going to the next slide, guys. So he jumped right in, guys. He joined less than a year ago. This is property number one. He has bought number two already. We're gonna talk about number one. He's already bought property two. He's talking about looking at number three. So let's just talk about number one right now. This was a wholesale deal. Can you just quickly walk through a little bit? It wasn't a huge remodel.
No, no, it was a wholesale deal, which, if you don't know, all of a sudden you have 2 weeks to close the deal. And with the team together, it really was an easy process on my end, but I went up, and within the 2 week period, I flew up on the day that I was supposed to close. Didn't quite close that day. Toured the house for the first time, and really put together a good agenda of things for my GC that I already had lined up to do. And by the time I did close several weeks after that, I closed on a Tuesday, already had my roof on by a Friday. I took possession of the house in the middle of June, had my rehab done by middle of July, had a renter in by August 1st.
Give him a hand. That's good. Good timeline. I always say it should take a grand slam is when you do it 4 to 6 weeks. It sounds like that's right where your timeline was. That's great.
He went through, and his could have closed a lot sooner. There was a few hiccups that came along the way. He called me. He talked to the local ambassador. If you guys noticed, there was a little golden nugget he threw in there, guys, which was, I build my team before I got into the home. Understand that, guys. That's a golden nugget. Most people do it the other way. That's why he was successful. So because of that, he was able to succeed and be able to get through it. So he had a few hiccups that he called me. We walked through it, be able to talk it out, be able to analyze. And he said, okay, I'll take that information. He moved forward and was able to succeed, successfully close on the home. He did the remodel, and now he got a tenant right in. Excellent. So the remodel wasn't huge. So that's why we got a couple pictures. You saw some new paint, some new floor. He got a roof. Can you walk us a little bit through the slide here, Michael?
Sure. So the appraised value, and I will tell you that was one of the fun adventures on getting the appraised value, because I actually had to bring in a different appraisal. So I paid for more than one appraisal on that one. The purchase price was $110. Because it was a wholesale deal, that was the actual price that went to the seller. There was some fees on top of that. The rehab itself, we initially estimated at around $18,000 to $19,000. But what Lifestyles will teach you is that for every rehab estimate you get, you should add on about $5,000 just to cover, because once we got in there, all of a sudden we started finding the things that we didn't know needed to be done that we had to account for. So my total cash out of pocket on this deal, a little over $36,000. But the one thing that was really good, and David already alluded to, is I had everything set up so that I could get a renter in there as soon as possible. Because for me, the one thing that's most important is getting that cash flow started as soon as I possibly can. So if I can get that rehab amount of time down to as little as possible, I'm going to do it. And so even if my cash out of pocket might be a little bit more than normal, the sooner the cash flow gets in there, the more I'm going to make up on the whole deal.
I love how members do this. They start beating themselves up. The guy's making, I say, $200 to $600. He's making $447 a month. He's making a 15% return, and he's beating himself up. Who thinks 15% tax-free is pretty good? Give him a hand. That's an awesome deal.
One of the on this property, he was wanting cash flow. Equity wasn't as important, so the equity capture really wasn't as great there. But before the call today, actually to just check the mics and everything, Michael kind of told me a little bit of an update on this property when it came to equity. Can you tell them what you told me a couple hours ago?
Sure. And just to reiterate, part of going into this deal and having conversations with Isaac and Josh and Rodney and Vicky and Darlena was the fact that there wasn't a lot of equity there, but they kept telling me, don't worry, the equity will come.
Yep.
And I had to have faith in that. And so closing in June, today is November 3rd, there was actually a comp in the neighborhood that recently closed, which pushes my equity capture up to about 38% right now.
Yeah, see, went up.
In
That's the point.
6 months, guys.
Yep.
And one of the things he listened, hey, you know what? Your rehab is going to be about 18, 19. This is your first home. Let's put an extra reserve on there. Guys, we're conservative. I don't know if you guys understand that. We are conservative. And he's like, okay, cool. I said, if you spend the extra 5, does this deal work? He said, yes. Said, if you don't spend it, you just got a better deal. He ended up having to spend it, and it still was a good deal. So guys, we're not here trying to just barely make things happen. Even with a reserve, he was able to make this property happen. So congratulations, Michael, man. First property, wholesale deal in a different state. Man, rock solid, man. So tell us a little bit more of what that future looks like for you, Michael.
So the future looks like I just closed on my second home within the past 4 weeks, and another wholesale deal that the numbers look even better than the first deal right now.
Yeah.
You know, currently looking at, so I bought the deal beginning of October, had the rehab, which was not a lot, going right away. We're finishing it up this week. I'm going to have a renter in there on November 15th, and my cash flow is going to be about 21% with a 48% equity capture.
Awesome. Good stuff.
It gets better, guys. When you are able to build a team, people get to know you, deals get sent. It's a beautiful thing what relationships could do. So what's next, buddy? Go for it.
So the first goal is to get to 10 homes right away. I'm still employed. I will readily admit that I work in the financial industry, so I still have a career left in that. The reason for doing this is there's more control over my income by buying homes, and that's what I found out over my 30 years of, and believe me, the first 28 years of my career, I did not want to be a landlord. I had that attitude until a couple of years ago when my eyes started opening up. My wife, she gets to retire in 5 years. So my goal is to build up the real estate portfolio to the point where in 5 years, if I wanted to walk away from what I'm doing, I could, and I can go do whatever else I want.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
All right.
What's the next slide look like? Oh, your team. Yeah. So the Georgia team, guys, for those that are not aware, Lifestyles has a realty office in Georgia. And through that and a good amount of members locally, they've been able to build some vendors. So walk through a little bit of who's on your team, Michael.
Sure. So I use Lifestyles Realty. Vicky Wall is absolutely awesome. And Darlene Kennett, they know the area down there. I ended up not choosing Atlanta proper, but I ended up down in Macon, Georgia, which is about an hour south. The reason being is, quite honestly, the rehab times were a lot better in Macon than they were in Atlanta. And so with the realty team helping me out, we're able to find some great locations. On the lending, I use Searchers and Kellen Rembert for the hard money. They do exceptionally great work. On my first deal, I used AMP Lending for the refi. But on my second deal, I'm actually using David Maddox of Gateway, who's sitting in the room tonight.
Yep. All right, good. So let me take one question online if we have one in the room, and then because we got to move on. David, do you have any online questions?
I don't have any online questions yet.
Anybody in the room want to ask a question? And one thing that's powerful, folks watching from California and Hawaii, live where you want to live. Even if you want to live in a communist state, it's okay. Invest where it makes sense. Do you understand that? You can do it from anywhere. We have a question.
Thank you for your presentation. How difficult was it or easy was it to screen a good renter?
Good question. How did you screen your renter? Did you do property management or did you do it yourself?
Actually, I used Vicky Wall with a leasing agreement, and the realty team did all the screening for me. So I don't have to do any of that. And the reason being is, and Isaac can attest, because this was a really good conversation I had with him, I'm not on the ground there. And it's really good to have somebody on the ground, and so with the realty team, they're doing all the screening, they're doing the on-site visits, You know, they're doing the hard labor for me. I'm benefiting from it.
Remember, folks, it's about passive income. That's what he's doing. He's like, I don't want the responsibility. If I can hire somebody to do it for me, that's experience. Nothing wrong with that. I show you in the seminar how to do it every step of the way on your own. But if you don't want to, you can pay other people to do it. So it's an option. Great question. Okay. Anybody else? No? All right. Hey, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If you guys have questions in the chat, you can always put stuff in there, and one of our folks can always answer your questions there as well. But we're going to move on now. We're going to go, but everybody give them a hand. Thanks for the people out of state.
Thank you.